And welcome to another episode of the podcast for the recently deceased. I'm your host, Nate Roberts, and
I'm
with
your
me
other
as
host,
and
Rodney
with
Godek.
and with me as always is Garth.
Uh, how you
uh,
doing, brother?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I'm really glad that we watched this movie to make up for having to watch episode 16's movie, Gatlop. Tonight, we'll be reviewing Some Like It Rare.
mm, the French, I believe, fourth film from Fabrice Eboué, and written also by him and Vincent Sagnac, starring Marina Foy and Fabrice. The main guy. I think he is the director. Yeah.
Oh, is it?
I think so. I'm just double checking. I apologize. I haven't done this for everyone. Yeah, yeah. Yes.
Oh, great. He was amazing. He was
He he
he's
was awesome.
yeah. Uh, do you want to do this one?
Okay, yeah, sure. So real quick before I get into the summary of Something Like a Rare podcast Racing the Deceased, we are going to rate, review, and talk about horror movies. And tonight we're talking Something Like a Rare. Our format, we're going to do a quick conversation, talk about the movie in broad strokes, give you a general impression of what to expect in it, and give our score from 1 to 10, 1 being awful, 10 being foie gras, delicious aperitif, which is not what a foie gras is. And then afterward, we're going to get into a spoiler conversation where we get into all the details and gush over the fun or awfulness of the film. So that's what we're going to do. So,
Yeah.
some like it rare.
Some Like It
Uh,
Rare.
French. And I'll be reading this one right now. Yep. Okay. After accidentally killing a vegan activist, a struggling butcher chops up the body and sells the meat to his customers. With business now booming, he and his wife search for more victims to satisfy their clientele's growing demand. That's it. And it's a fine description. Well, because that's the thing, it gives away what the film is. That they're gonna kill a vegan and feed it to people, and then try to continue to do that. And it's fine in saying that because that's the whole movie, and it starts with that pretty early. And so, like, that's what you're gonna expect if you are off put by that idea. This movie's not for you. However, it is always wonderfully executed, comedically, with just enough gore and just enough blood and violence to make it entertainingly fun and not icky, squishy, torture porn, you know? Mm, very much. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I would say arguably the very first kill and then the dismembering of that body was the only point in the movie where I felt a little bit like squirmish, where I was just like, it's unnerving, where the chopping and the sawing, as it's known to do, whenever you see someone doing that to a human body, you kind of like you can't help but wince a little bit because you're hearing it, or it's a sense type experience. Afterward, everything's just fun, no weird feelings, just enjoying the absurdity that they're going to go through in the movie. Uh, yeah, man, this one hit it out of the park. It was wonderful
Absolutely.
on all counts. And it's funny, we just also talked about Piggy. This reminded me a lot about Piggy too,
Yeah,
in a
yeah.
in a different kind of way.
Yeah, I did. And
It's like
then
we've
they're
been
both
searching for this movie, you know?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean a quick rundown, like the comedy was on point. The kills, as we said, were good and they never went over the line. The story was, as believable as people selling people for meat can be. Um,
uh,
the
because it's
attack.
obviously absurd, and they get into that, but, like, they don't get into the details of how you mask it. You just accept it. That's what they're doing. No
Right,
one knows that it's that. They think it's something else,
right. Iranian
and you don't
ham.
question it. Yeah, Iranian pork, the subterfuge, his cover story is kinda hilarious because it happens early on, he gets to it.
He
He's just
just makes it
riffing.
up off the top of his head. He's
Yeah,
like, and it's like, yeah, that's the ticket. As he keeps going further into this story of how
because
there
they
was
can't have pork, and then there was this one, and now it's like this,
this,
special thing.
yeah, this farmer. He just, he brought some of the pigs over, and yeah, now he and only he gets the Iranian pork.
Yeah.
Um, oh, I also love how. Oh, okay, well, let's we can do that in the spoiler. All right.
Sure.
So this movie falls flat in very, very few places. In my opinion, maybe with the anti-climactic climax,
Mhm.
which it kind of made sense because of the wife's obsession with
Yeah.
serial killer TV shows, but
Yeah, it wraps it up in a nice package, but,
but
I
it
mean,
wasn't.
the thing that
It wasn't punchy enough, right? Like I wanted
yeah.
something a little bit more. Um, but it made sense in
But you kinda
terms.
wonder, like, where else can it go, you know? You it's
Yeah,
like, they get to the meat of it, pretty early on,
yeah,
and it's like, you're just gonna keep eating this," and they obviously have fun with it. They know how to stretch it to fill the whole runtime in an entertaining fashion. It's just yes, it doesn't have that
yeah.
pizzazz bump at the end, and that's fine. It's
It
look, if
it
you're gonna
was
play
fine,
with my dick all night, I'll probably still be happy with it, even if I can't come at the end,
right? That's what I'm
because I
saying.
I can do what I have to do after.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is there's an antagonist, and well, not really. They kind of introduce an antagonist, and then he accidentally ends up like attacking him in a roundabout way, and then like if you want to call the couple the protagonists, right? And then he
Mhm.
becomes then he gets reintroduced as an antagonist, and they actually fight like hand to hand, and that is kind of where I thought it was going to go, and it just didn't go there, and that's fine. So I gave um, Some Like It Rare a 7 out of 10.
Ooh, so I landed at an 8. It's just very good. I don't have a lot of bad things to say about it. It's foreign, so it's very enjoyable to read along and to see, a different slice of life, as it were, in a just different setting, which is it's just funny, in the pantheon of horror/horror comedy. We just talked about how hard it is to marry these two up. This film executing it so well, being so visually well executed. It's always entertaining. It does look very artsy sometimes, but certain action shots or just the framing of other pieces is elegant and never a distraction. Uh, and yeah, just well written dialogue, which is what drives a lot of it because they're talking with a lot of vegans and
Yeah,
about meat, and like it's hilarious. What I don't now, I'm not a vegan, so I don't know how a true vegan would feel about the brutalization of vegans in the film because they're obviously making fun of vegans. Uh, that's the one thing I will say. There's not really a message here. They
yeah,
are dealing with veganism and kind of bashing them a bit at how full of themselves they are and how they pontificate on the wrongs that everyone in the world is performing around them. And obviously, it's in the news where there's these dumb fucks stop oil spray painting orange paint on buildings as if anyone gives a fuck, pretending to pour soup on a masterpiece because you want attention. I get it. Your parents didn't love you and you hate the world, but this movie isn't trying to say anything. They're just having fun, and
yeah,
I'm fine with that. This isn't a
yeah,
commentary. But so all of those things, the things that it's not and the things that it is, I'm all for. And it didn't have anything aside from not having the money shot at the end. Uh,
yeah.
that was the only letdown, and so I still stand by it by an 8. And
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to talking about some of the fun hilarity that was in this movie with you after this section. So, hey,
Right.
highly
So,
recommend it.
all right.
Go see it, folks. You'll
Yeah.
have fun. I believe it's on streaming somewhere. You can download it. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Go get
It,
it.
I agree with the recommend. Go see it. And at this point, we're going to start the spoiler conversation. So check out if you like. And also, I'm going to jump right in because the point you just finished with, the vegan conversations. There's
Hmm.
that one character. So the husband and wife pretend to be vegans to catch vegans and lure them into their traps to turn them to turn them into meat.
Yeah, wolves in sheep's clothing.
Yes. There's a guy, a meat eater, who chews them out for being vegans. Um, and this is one of like this I thought was one of the funniest dialogue bits in the movie where he's like go to another country. Like you can't be French and be vegan. Yeah, he's like the cuisine, our history of food cannot be vegan. You cannot be French and be vegan. And he starts listing all these great foods and dishes. And it was just really I just thought it was great.
It is great, and it just is a testament to his writing, directing, and acting. Mostly heightened on the writing and his acting. The lead character, played by the writer and director, um, Vincent Pascal, Pascal's Butchery or whatever is what it's called. He is so perfectly played. He's unassuming. He seems kind of like lost his zest for life. He obviously is passionate about being a butcher. The film opens with him massaging to an exorbitant length the cut of meat that this woman is trying to buy. He keeps slapping it, and he's just like, it's like
He's
he's
like,
like what you would do with
yeah,
the like he's behind a woman and he's
yeah,
treating her ass like this piece of
yeah,
meat. But he doesn't do that to his wife. He just saves that for this meat, and they
yeah.
talk about that. That's like one of their fights. He's perfect in it because he looks so normal and so know nothing that whenever he's in these situations where he's confronting a fellow meat lover under the guise that he's a vegan, he has to pretend to be a vegan, V power, and like and
V
just speak
power
this bullshit
constantly.
that he knows is bullshit, but he's like having fun and like eventually he falls in love with who he becomes because it brings out this zest in his life. He's excellent in it. The writing and the directing with the way that he does this, the dialogue because they're talking to vegans, and there's always this back and forth. This is where your witty, quippy, argumentative, like fun dialogue has to happen. Like what wasn't in Gatlop hardly at all.
Yeah,
Uh, has to be there because it can't just be a funny situation. It has to be funny words also accompanying it, and it's always excellent.
yeah.
Um,
Like it starts off with he's like browbeaten. The wife is like he just does what she tells him because he just doesn't
mhm.
care.
Well, yeah, she's on
Um,
the edge of divorce,
yeah,
right?
yeah, they're being separated.
And she wants to separate.
She
Yeah.
tries to separate two or three times before the accidental serving of the human, which I thought was great the way it happened. Like
Mhm.
he so they kill this vegan on a bike on accident. Look, it was
Yeah.
kind of on accident. Like he hits him on purpose. He didn't mean to kill him, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, these vegans, they trash his shop at the beginning of the movie. It happens right away. They throw blood like these protesters do
Yeah,
nowadays, and trash the shop. He runs out and he gets a head off the one of the protesters because we're all wearing animal masks. He gets
yeah,
the head off and sees one of the kids, and then he recognizes them whenever they're coming back from their friends after a party at their friends, who's a butcher with a chain,
right.
the potential antagonist. Yeah, so he sees a guy and he's like, "Oh, that's the guy. I'm gonna go get him. I'll teach him." And then he just like starts hauling ass in reverse and he runs him over. And they're like, "Oh, we're fucked. What do we do?" And you mentioned earlier the wife's obsession, and that's what leads us
Right.
down this path, right?
Right. So she's obsessed with these serial killer TV shows. She watches them to fall asleep every night because they have no sex life, as she brings up as often as possible.
Hmm.
Um, so he decides that the most nondescript way of disposing of the body. She suggests a way from one of the serial killer shows she watches. and he decided he didn't want to do that, so he turned him into a ham and figured he'd just throw it out with the expired hams, right?
Yeah, make it look like discarded meat,
Yeah.
chop them all up, different pieces, and so yeah, it all makes sense.
So he's carrying the ham through the butcher shop, and someone wants some slices of that ham, and he just has it there, and she tells him to do it. He's like, "No, this isn't good," and she's like, "Let me taste it," and he gives her some because he
Yeah.
can't say anything. It's in front of a customer.
Hmm.
Um, and then he sells it to her, and she says it's the best thing she's ever eaten, and comes back for more. And then the whole town is constantly lining up, and they sell out, and
Yeah.
now they have this problem of being sold out. And what's the solution? It's to kill more people, but they specifically target vegans because
Because
maybe
you're so
that's
health conscious, yeah.
maybe that's
And
why
then
this ham tasted so good because it
right.
was vegan.
And I love how they go through their, because this evolves into a whole thing where they're now like shopping for the right victim that
Yeah,
they want to has the best flavor profile, and he's like talking about it like he's talking about a
yeah,
pig, has to have just the right amount of fat and like
yeah.
this and like you want
For good
someone that's
marbling.
too yeah, that's too muscly, you need someone
Yeah,
a little fatter.
yeah. Too
Oh, that guy is too
skinny.
strong, yeah.
Yeah,
And it's wonderful. Like again, it's the way that it's written to get into these situations, which are at face value kind of like absurd and kind of like, "Oh, obviously this isn't real, this wouldn't happen." But you learn early on in this movie the way that it's done that no, just unplug, just
oh yeah,
accept the movie for what it is. It's not set dressing and trying to fool you into what it is. This is what it is,
yeah. We're not
and
watching a
it's just going to be
documentary
fun.
here.
Yeah. So just have fun and get into it. It won't disappoint you. Just go along for the ride. Uh, and so
Right.
the way that they do that, like it just becomes a comic line thread throughout the whole thing. The talking about what they have to do, how they're going to do it, and then how it's actually executed. Every time, each one of those setup and payoffs has a lot of comedic value, but it also has like the horror elements that make it entertaining. Um, I would say that this is probably more of a comedy movie with a horror backdrop. It's not very it's they're so well blended, you
Oh
know?
yeah, yeah. This was great. Like it was just great. I love they have a daughter who you don't know that they even have a kid until she shows up, and
Mhm.
she brings the boyfriend home for dinner, and he's a vegan.
Yeah.
And the dialogue here is great because she also refuses the meat at this point, and he's like uh what? And he, the boyfriend says, no, she just chooses that I don't push my lifestyle on her, but could you imagine her kissing me after she's eaten me? That would be her pushing her lifestyle on me. So she just chooses not to eat
Yeah.
me when we're together. Um,
Yeah,
you know.
it's great. It's so annoying.
And yes, so annoying, and like you could see like the look on his face and the wife's face. They're both like disgusted by
Yeah, they're
these
they're
vegans.
boiling over, but they're being good parents and they're
Yeah,
not making a scene. They're gonna let it go on, but they're like, yeah, they're fuming. They're so fucking
yeah,
frustrated. Like, Butcher's daughter is now a vegan.
yeah.
Go figure. And so they're like, yeah, such is life. Um, the movie just catapults itself because it's like they get into this situation and then it continually has to maintain that. That's the one thing that does it wanes a little bit. Once they start getting into having to kill to maintain their lifestyle and the customer base, it can drone on a little bit. But the movie does a great thing where it lightens up and has two montages
Right, right.
of
So
the act of killing and
the
hunting
the first time
that
you're
work
like,
perfectly.
yeah, the first time you're kind of like, where can this go next? It just gives you like a montage of kills, and you're
Yeah.
like, oh, this is just fantastic.
Yeah,
And
this
then
is
it, and
great.
then it then it get, then it comes back to the story, and it was like, oh, that was a nice little break.
Mhm.
And then 15 minutes later, you're like, oh, shouldn't this movie be over by now? Oh, it does it again. Like,
Yeah, like it lulls you back and it convinces you again to just keep having fun. We're still having fun
yeah,
with
we're still having
this
fun.
setup. and yeah, it doesn't overstay its welcome. The montage in this movie acts a lot like the montage that I thought was so amazingly pitch perfect in earlier this year, Hulu's Fresh by Mimi
Fresh.
Cave, starring Sebastian Stan and Daisy Edgar Jones. Is that her name? No, is that
Uh,
right?
Close. It's she's the one in the Crawdad movie, right?
I think that's what it is. At any rate, they have a montage with the animatronics obsession and him going about his business, which, spoiler alert, Fresh deals with similar themes. I don't want to get into all the details of Fresh. If you haven't seen it, stop now, go watch it. Uh, but, you know, that has similar actions with a great musical cut where he is like so over the top into the act of what he's doing, and you hadn't seen that part of him before, where now you're like, holy shit, I'm on board, this is so fun, it's hilarious, he's doing what.
Yeah.
uh so montages, they can't be you it's a tool.
Yeah, yeah.
It's obviously stupid sometimes,
I
but sometimes they're just so goddamn great.
Yeah, they're good. And Fresh was amazing. If you haven't seen it, it's gonna be in one of our top fives, if not both of our top fives of
Yeah,
2022. Um, definitely check it out on Hulu and then come back and watch our review of it. We had a blast talking about that movie.
yeah.
Um, and
I
it was
think
just
I said
excellent.
it like and it hasn't happened since, Nate. I remember saying it during that movie. Uh, at the title card, my arm was in the air and I was like,
Yeah,
yeah, it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
I couldn't contain myself. And I haven't had that same feeling. I had it a little bit with Barbarian, with the Justin Long cut, but not the same way. So,
Barbarian also
man,
did the delayed title.
yes, I know. Not as delayed,
Not
but
as delayed,
yes,
but it was
delayed.
still delayed.
Yeah.
Real quick, it was Daisy Edgar Jones, and she is the lead in Where the Crawdads
Yeah,
Sing.
I thought that that was accurate. I was just I second guessed myself on her name. I'm just coming
uh,
over a cold, so I'm a little bit nasally.
yeah,
Apologies. So yeah, I mean, the movie do that. I like the conclusion to give the I like both conclusions. This is sort of like
right.
a Lord of the Rings finish in a sense, because there's a
Right.
couple loose ends to tie up of antagonists
Yeah, there's definitely like a B plot and an A plot, and you don't
and
know
a
what
C
you
plot.
and you don't know which one's which, like because they all kind of matter. So
Yeah,
you've got the original vegan terrorists, if you will, who they figure him out, um,
yeah.
and
He
they
helps them do a job to ransack his competitor's butcher shop, or one of
right,
his competitors' butcher shop, which is their friend that they
yeah,
dine with, that are that are assholes. And I don't know if you noticed, but
oh,
there were two racial slurs,
oh,
one really bad racial slur,
yeah,
and then a second racial slur, also offensive and awful,
yeah,
but not as bad as that first one. I was like, and they just went and kept going. I was
yeah.
like, wait a second. What the fuck?
Well,
What?
it definitely shows their faces, like their
Yeah,
reaction to them saying it, but they don't say anything about it because they just let these guys be assholes because they're rich. And the woman, the wife of the
yeah.
asshole couple, doesn't go a sentence without mentioning a dollar amount.
Hmm.
It's like just like oh, what was that, 4,000 euro? We have
Yeah,
about a 13,000 euro pool or car, what,
yeah,
who knows? Like
yeah.
just
It's
just
nonstop.
constant, yeah, it's
They lay it on thick,
nonstop.
and I think because it's so over the top, it works of how annoying and funny it is.
Yeah,
So yeah, so they exist, but then the people that he helped ransack one of their establishments
right.
also exist,
Which that
and you
scene is
see
so
one of the
funny.
guys.
That scene's
I
so
know.
funny because the vegans go in and the vegans are trashing the place, and all he's doing, he knocks over a standee of the guy, and then he pisses on it. And then later in a surveillance video, you see him trying to take a dump on it, but the other vegans are trying to pull him out of the warehouse. Like,
And they're
this is not
watching
why
the
we're
clip,
here.
and they're like, "Look at this asshole! He's defecating on my face." And the guy's like, "He's like, yeah, it's really
Really?
there's really sick people out there,
Yeah,
man."
and it,
It's
yeah,
him. It is wonderful. It's
yeah.
yeah. So both those people exist, and you're wondering when those plot lines are going to get tied up, and they just happen at different times. Like the couple gets tied up, um, because they just like have their fight with them at
Yeah.
their house, right?
Yep. Uh,
Because
they fight over some stuff, but before the fight starts, they're eating the Iranian pork, and he bites into to a pacemaker,
yeah,
battery or maybe whatever it is,
yeah,
and he makes up some excuse about it being the pigs, and
yeah, a tracker,
yeah,
the geolocation thing, and they don't buy it. And it's like, yeah, eventually it culminates to where they get into a fight with them, and that
and he
severs their
bites his
ties with them.
he bites his ear and chews it and spits it back
He's
at him,
chewing it, yeah.
chewing it. And then they're right. So then the vegans kind of catch them in their own butchery, in the cooler.
Right, because they're kind of like on their outs, like some things happen and like they're gonna maybe separate or not, they're not really clicking again. And
Right,
he goes for a walk or something, and then they come and they find her alone, and then they put her uh they started, beating her up and interrogating her
right,
and harassing her. Um and then he comes back to rescue her.
right.
And this is where you get the culmination of like him now killing for not just for sport and to feed the family, but for revenge and to fight for his wife's honor.
Yeah,
And that was satisfying, that scene.
yeah,
I
yeah.
enjoyed that
It was a
scene.
nice fight. It was a good fight.
And that's,
Uh,
I guess, where the more horror elements come because of what he has to do with the weapons and the kills that are going to be there.
yeah,
There's going to be 3 kills. How's
yeah,
it going to happen? And it was entertaining.
yeah. The hook one was good. The eye hook one. That was fun.
Yeah, yeah.
So then it it culminates in and as we said a little bit of a downer, but they do get caught, but it doesn't show you them getting caught, right? It
Hmm.
kind of skips ahead and it goes into the documentary that she watches every night. So all of a sudden the narrator is there and he's not on a screen. He's we're there with
Yeah,
him,
yeah.
and he's interviewing the couple, and the couple tells him how they tipped off the cops. They tipped off the cops because they knew it was a pacemaker, and that was their downfall there.
Hmm.
And then it just shows them really quickly with some cops on either side, and I think
Yeah, they look like they're in the in the trial room or in the jury
yeah,
room or sentence, and they
sh-
said, "Do you have any last words or whatever?" And
she
I
says
can't remember
something,
what she
right?
says. Yeah, I can't remember what she
I can't
says
remember
though.
what it was either, but I thought it was
It's
funny.
not it's fine. I don't think it was
Yeah,
like, oh, that's hilarious.
yeah, it wasn't big, but it was kind of like a chuckle or a smile.
Yeah,
Um, So yeah, so like I said, like the ending was fine enough, and it was a good reference or a callback, to her just binging that show through the whole movie. But for me, I could have used a little bit bigger of a thing, them getting caught in
yeah,
the act, or them getting away with it, and killing the rival and his wife and feeding them, and just like
right.
that, he could be slicing away at a ham open with a line out the door and roll credits, and I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
If that ham is the competitor and the competitor's wife,
Well,
right?
I've been known
Like
to pull up
that's
Wikipedia to get plot summaries to read the last line. But hey, this article needs a plot summary, and so if we want to write it, we're allowed to, being
ooh,
Wikipedia contributors.
oh very
So yeah, I
nice.
mean, I agree. I think that some sort of a different crescendo would have been better, well, more well suited
Just
to
yeah,
finish this movie
just
than what it
something
was.
a little
I agree.
punchier. That's all.
But yeah,
Okay,
just yeah, wonderful.
yep, go see it. Something like a rare. I gave it a 7.
Landed at an 8 for me.
And for the podcast for the recently deceased, I'm Nate Roberts,
I'm Rodney Godek. Take care.
and we'll see you next week.